at the speaker. 1701, 1701.
All right. Well, welcome to Hope for My City podcast. We are so excited. This is our jail edition, second part that we're doing here. And we had Marco and Chris, as you've seen, or you will see. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It'll be right on the suggestion after this video, or look for it. It'll be on our jail edition. Now, we're moving forward. Marco is my co-host today.
Hello, everybody.
And so, can you talk about why we have this episode 2 with these particular folks?
Yeah,
in
for
the
sure.
building?
Yeah. So on that first episode, if you remember, we gave a generalization of the jail, kind of gave you an idea of what jail was about and kind of our take on it, our ideas. But that was just an overall picture of it. There's so much more that goes on in the jail. And these ladies here are completely in charge of our booking area, kind of almost where it all starts when anybody comes to jail. So I think it's going to be very important for these guys to kind of get what they do out there, so the folks will know that from start to finish when they come in to the booking area, what that kind of looks like and what processes they go through, and maybe answer some of those questions for everybody.
Yeah. So first, we want to find out a little bit about you. So, Captain, if you would take the lead and just share with us, who you are in terms of, at the jail, how long you've been there, as much information as you're comfortable sharing.
Okay. My name is Eileen Russell. I'm captain over jail administration, which is kind of the back office functions, which booking is a part of that. Been with the county for 15 years. Started in booking, working midnights, did that for 7 years, and then moved into the other parts of the jail for a couple of years, and then back into administration back in 2018. So done several jobs in the jail, but booking has always been my first love because that's where I started.
There you go. So could you tell us, before we move on to the others there, could you tell us, you've been there for 15 years, what is something you can share with us that has been interesting for you in your 15 years there?
So, and it's something we talk to folks when they come and apply for a job at the jail, is you are exposed to a world that nobody else sees, most people don't ever experience. So it is its own little city that runs itself inside of a couple of buildings, where we have every function from the time you arrive to taking care of people, medical needs, housing them, clothing them, everything. So booking is just the entryway to that whole process, to where we get folks booked in. We explain to them what their charges are. We do the photos, we do the fingerprints, all of those things. But we are the first people that when someone comes to jail, we are the first people that they see, that they experience. And so it is a enlightening experience for people to see what the first part is, and then because all they see is kind of the razor wire around a building, when they don't, there's many processes that go into bringing someone in and then housing them in the jail, and then all the way to the point when they release, because booking is a huge part of the whole releasing process too.
Oh, wow. So it's not just the entry part of it, but it's
Yes.
the exiting.
Yes.
Wow. We'll get to that part. So in the back, let's start with. Oh, I'm sorry, you already have the mic.
I'm Lieutenant Kayla Barron. I started with the jail in 2018. I was a dispatcher prior to that, and then moved to Waco. Got hired on 2018. A year later, I ended up in booking. I was later promoted from booking, and got the opportunity to promote to sergeant. And when I did that, I stayed on shift for a couple of months before I was pulled back to booking and got to work for Eileen. And then in April of this year, I luckily got to continue working for Eileen when I got promoted to lieutenant.
Thank you for sharing. And then a little bit more about you as well, sis.
Sergeant Jacqueline Clark. I have been working at the jail since August 2014. Started in booking, worked my way up to a TAC, which is, we'll get into that here later. was corporal there, and then in July I got promoted to booking sergeant. I took Kayla Barron's sergeant position in booking.
Awesome. So we have some history here. Marco, you said last time that you've been here is that about 17 years?
Yeah, about 17 years total working for the sheriff's office.
Okay. And so kind of take us through there with to question captain and the sergeants here of a good question coming in, like when they're, do y'all know about when folks, how far in do you know about when someone's en route on the way to the jail?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting, or it can be pretty interesting. We actually don't know who's coming into the jail until we get a call from our guy who's working out at the east gate.
Oh.
And he says, you've got one male or one female on the Sally Port coming in. We do get some heads up sometimes if the person that an agency is bringing in is kind of rowdy or upset. They give us a little courtesy call and they tell us, hey, you've got one that's coming in that's not too happy. You know, who's ever happy to come to jail, right? But you kind of get those every once in a while where they're just being a little bit too combative and they want to give us a heads up just to make sure that we have a good idea of what we're going to be dealing with when they come in.
Wow. So what's that like, Captain, in your experience? They just come to the gate and that's when you know that there's someone coming in because they're at the gate at that point.
That is correct. We'll get a call from the gate saying we got one male in the Sally Port, one female in the Sally Port. They might say 4 males in the Sally Port, depending on how many got arrested. And so they'll come in through our Sally Port area. We go out and we greet the officer the agency that's bringing them in. They'll tell us a little bit about the person, give us some of their things like their ID and things like that. And then basically at that point, it's pat searching, making sure they don't have any kind of contraband on them. Gathering all their property together because we have to account for every bit of that property when they come in, and then getting some initial questions done with them, just kind of trying to identify them. Have they ever been to our facility before? Have they not? So on. So it is, that's the introduction when we get to the Sally Port, and then we go further inside the jail, and that's...
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but, you know, when she was talking about when we get out there and we start talking to these guys, this is our first interaction with that person. So this is when we start building that relationship up with them, that trust, that rapport with that person who's coming in. And so the people who are working up at booking, it takes a special officer in the first place to work in the jail, but it takes a really special officer to work up at the booking area so they can talk to these guys and de-escalate situations. Because when these guys come in, sometimes they're pretty hyped up or they're drunk, and you've got to know how to deal with those people. So this is our first interaction with them, and we want it to go smoothly.
So lieutenants in the back, how so? How so is that true? That you have to basically be some type of not only me just looking at y'all going in there, I'm like, oh snap, you got to be administratively, on steroids, got your stuff down. But not only that, you have to be some type of a people person. So can y'all in the back tell us about that? How so?
So I feel like if you want to keep your job going, like, keep the pace going, you kind of have to, like, oh, that guy's not acting right. Oh, well, put him to the side. We'll do him later. Or you kind of just have to be personal with these people, even if they are being combative or if they're drunk. Or that way you can keep doing your job and you're not prolonging the process, or you just kind of have to get down on personal level with them sometimes and just, hey, talk to them a certain way, or get the job done and move on to the next one.
So part of this processing is so crucial to the rest of the whole system, right? When I was taken on a tour there, for the record, I took a tour in the 90s that I didn't enjoy, but I recently got it. That's a whole different story. But here recently, after 20 plus years being a leader in the community, God has given me the opportunity to be able to take a tour that I really enjoyed, because I enjoy how you say, I enjoy being with people. I'm a people person. And so I really enjoyed just being able to have the opportunity to go in there. But when I went in there, it opened my eyes because I realized all the different things that go on just in processing. It's like a hub, if you will. And me going around being introduced to everyone and their function, and it really was overwhelming just for me to take in. I'm like, oh wow, like it's part of a really intricate. It's a part of a really intricate system that's really massive, right? And so you're sitting here saying that you understand the mission, you understand the goal. You have to process these individuals because there's a process to the processing, right? And they're not done yet. And so you have to do your part to make sure that everything else falls in place or everything gets backed up. And so being a people person is imperative, it sounds like. And it means like as a captain that you make those decisions on purpose to make sure that it's a well-oiled machine. It's not a perfect one, but it's a well-oiled machine. How important is that to your decision process to make sergeants?
So really, it's everything, because that is where the experience of somebody like Jackie, and then also with Kayla, where their experience of knowing how every bit of this works from the time the person rolls through the Sally Port to the time they walk through the doors, and every single step that has to be taken. Because so much of this is still dictated by the jail commission. There's things we have to do with every person that comes through that door. So there's the personal interaction you have with someone where you're just talking them through the process. Say, listen, I know you're not happy about being here, but this is how this is, step by step, this is how this goes. So you're trying to talk them down and talk them through the whole process while you're making sure that all gets done. And so you wear multiple hats trying to get this done. So people with experience like Jackie and like Kayla, it is a huge thing for them to, because then they have to teach the new people that come in, the next generation that comes in, and you're trying to show them this is how this works, this is how you talk to people, because none of us have ever done this before until we walked into this building and we did this job.
Oh wow, that's good. So with that, could you share, Sergeant, what was that like for you, knowing how important this is, as we're stressing and I'm realizing it, how important. I mean, what was that like for you when you first walked in them doors? And
it was overwhelming. I can think back to coming in and getting my fingerprints done whenever I was coming on with the sheriff's office, and just looking at everything that was going on. And you've got officers running in different directions during the day. You've got court going on. You may have 10 people sitting out in Sallyport that transport has brought in. And it gets
10 people.
Oh yeah, easy.
There could be many more.
And that's just
on the outside waiting.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's to us, that's simple, that's easy, that's normal. But going into it back in 2018, it was so overwhelming. And then moving up to booking, and then going from a rover, which is our floor guys that are doing walks, and then going up to the top and learning how to book these charges in, what all this paperwork meant. If you think of, we've got 1,400 inmates in the jail, and we have a piece of paper that says this is why they're here on 1,400 different people. Like, that's a lot of paperwork. And not only that, we've booked each one of these charges in. It can be very, very overwhelming, very stressful. But we've got a team of guys that do a phenomenal job.
So is that right that y'all started out going into the, like, basically taking people and taking them to their cells and walking around? Is that how that works?
So me personally, I started in housing.
Okay.
I was a jailer in the wings is how I started. Now Jackie, she started as a booking tech.
Okay.
So we've all kind of gone, so did Eileen. Eileen started as a booking tech. We've kind of all come from different areas of the jail.
Okay. And how many agencies, Captain, earlier you said that different agencies that come into the gate to enter the Sallyport, just so people can understand, how many agencies does that entail when we're talking about McLennan County alone?
Well, you think about every town in McLennan County is an agency. So how many total is that? And then we also bring in, we have people from other places. So we take in federal inmates as well. So we'll take in people from all over the state of Texas. But then we'll have other agencies that drop inmates off for us and so on. So there is a variety of people that will come through the Sally Port and drop inmates off at any given time.
Wow. We're going to have to get the number up there once we get to, what's his name? The guy where Cody was talking about the numbers.
David Ives, the bean counter. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
we'll connect with David to make sure we get the number.
Yeah, that's the guy that you're going to want to go to for any single stats that you're looking for the sheriff's
And
office.
I'll make sure it pops on the screen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, make sure it pops on the screen.
Yeah, it's I'll make it look good.
Yeah,
go ahead.
but Captain Russell was right. I mean, we've got several agencies in McLennan County. So you know, starting with Waco PD,
That's our biggest.
Belle Meade PD, Lacey Lakeview PD,
Hewitt.
PD,
Woodway.
Robinson, all the different schools within the area, Conley, and then you'll have Rangers come in every once in a while.
The ISD PDs.
All the ISD PDs. Sometimes Secret Service will come in. DPS, Department of Public Safety. So any law enforcement agency that's within our county.
That's a lot of them.
That's who we service. That's who they're going to bring to us. Plus the outside agencies that come in and we'll do drop-offs. So many different agencies come in that we take care of.
Wow. Well, is there ever a reason? I'm asking because I don't know. I'm one of those that just don't know stuff, and I'm sure there's people on here that are watching. Is there ever any reason for, like, let's just say Bell County to bring somebody to McLennan County? If so, how, and how does that work?
That's usually because that inmate belongs to us.
Oh, okay.
So they were arrested in Bell County, and they'll say, hey, we're going to do a courtesy drop-off, and we're going to bring them to McLennan, drop them off for you. Typically, we'll go pick them up or somewhere else. But that would be the normal reason that Bell County would bring somebody. Or they have a federal inmate, and we are kind of the main holding facility for the U.S. Marshals in Waco.
Oh, okay.
And so we will have other agencies, Killeen PD, Bell County, so on, that will drop off inmates at our facility to book them in for marshal's charges.
Is there such a thing as a certain city in Texas that just so happens to deal with y'all more than any other city that we may not know or realize?
Probably Bell, because they're so close. Bell and,
Really?
your surrounding communities, your surrounding counties are the ones you'll deal with the most because people don't venture too far typically.
Okay.
So if, somebody who might live, in Clifton, and then you're going to have Bosque County that we'll be dealing with and so on. But those are small ones. So Bell is probably the biggest one and the one we probably deal with the most.
Wow. So just so people can get an understanding, a picture of this, anybody that you see on TV, on the news, on Facebook, on mugshots, oh my gosh, like all these different, and maybe we'll circle back to that in a minute, but all those different things, I didn't realize, so I know others, is that anytime we see any of that, usually that's going to mean jail and intake right there in booking where you guys are at. So what you guys are talking about encompasses all of that everybody sees, that comes on TV and makes a big deal, that they land right there. You guys see every single one of those individuals at some point or another.
Every person.
What is that like?
Go ahead, Kayla.
It's, if you think, let's just say somebody, we've seen numerous murderers have to walk through the door there. It takes a toll, I think, personally, and you have to treat these people no different, no matter what their charges are. You still have to complete your job, no matter what they've done, whether they're there on a Class C ticket or capital murder. But you see every one of these people. I personally have seen horrific things come through the door, and it's just something that you have to do your job, come out, do your job, and keep going. But it's definitely, like I said, it's an overwhelming experience altogether to know the things that have happened and why these people are coming to jail.
So, part of this is, we do Hope from Our City, and we're doing this jail edition, is, I really want folks to understand, so to humanize one side or the other. Humanize someone like me that's all tatted up, ex-convict, turned pastor now, got to say that. But or those who don't have that experience, that come from the profession that you guys come from, is that we're all humans, right? Yes. So part of this is to humanize you guys. And so how do y'all deal? Okay, I'm sure there's a lot of people, just like in any other profession, that want to try something and like, okay, now that is not for me. And they kick rocks and they leave, which is great because you don't know till you know, right? But you guys are sitting here and you've been here for a while doing this, and you've said yes. You've said yes to this profession, to this position, to the point to where you're in leadership. You've been recognized by somebody, right? And how do you have the audacity you have to do what you do day in and day out? All the intricate things that no one really knows about that y'all know, right? As a family unit there. Where do you get that from to wake up every morning and still show up to work?
Okay, so now you just made me a little scared about my job. I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed right now. So there is some audacity to it, I guess. But the reality of it is it can weigh on you because there is a tremendous amount of responsibility when you think about it. But you have to kind of compartmentalize that,
okay,
and realize I've got things I've got to do every day, and the things you do every day are you're trying to make things better, or you're trying to make sure things run smoothly, or you're making sure that you're abiding by the law. All of those things. Because when you do overanalyze the size of the job, there's 1,400 people in the jail. There's 400 people that work in the jail, and so on. It can get, you hear numbers like that, it can get a little intimidating. But what makes this so good is we really do have some of the absolute best people working inside this facility, the people in this room included. But they go to work every day doing a job that's very thankless by the community in many ways, because in law enforcement, the people that tend to be the ones that get a lot of the attention are your police officers on the street, and they deserve every bit of it. But the first responders, like the firemen and so on, correctional officers are forgotten. They're a forgotten population, and they are integral to protecting your community, because you don't want to let somebody out by accident. That's where the whole booking thing comes in, where you have to know what you're reading when you're looking at paperwork and so on. So these are people that take their jobs very seriously, and they believe strongly in how we do this job. So without every one of those 400 people that I mentioned, this would be incredibly difficult for me to do. So that's where my responsibility level feels lighter, because they take on so much of the load.
What about you, Marco?
Well, what I was going to ask these guys is, do you think that the people that we have working up front get it right off the bat, how they have to interact with these guys that are coming in? Or do you think that's something that's learned over time? Or, because I've seen some guys that they're just natural talkers. It just comes to them. But then there's some people who are like, I don't know if I want to keep them up here. We've got to keep this well-oiled machine going. Do I take the time to teach this person how to talk to people and de-escalate and just learn their job, or do I try to get somebody else up here? But I just a question for you guys. Like, do you think that it's automatically instilled in those people that we put up there? Like, what's that process for putting somebody up at booking? Because like I said, it takes a very special person to work up there.
That's a great question. Let's hold that for a second. Okay. Let's not forget that. But I wanted to ask the same question to Captain, to the sergeants in the back. Like what wakes you? I mean, what audacity do you have to get up every morning and go to work and do that? Where a lot of people, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not just for anybody, right? So what gets you there every morning?
I personally, when I got the opportunity to move to booking, it was something that I completely enjoyed to do. So now to be in a supervisor role over something that I absolutely loved to do, it's easy. Jackie makes my job very, very easy. She handles everything flawlessly. We have a whole team of people that, I'm not saying that errors aren't made, things don't happen, because they do.
Sure.
But we have a very, very good team that makes our jobs very easy, in my opinion, and I love it. I couldn't think of working anywhere else, honestly. I think we finally got our puzzle pieces put together and the correct people put to where our area can strive. And that's what makes me wake up every day, knowing that things are handled and taken care of, and I take pride in that. So,
What about you?
So just like Kayla said, me and her, I believe we work very well together. And just our team, it makes the job easier. So coming into work, knowing things are going to be taken care of, knowing that you have a good team, the booking corporals, the booking lieutenant, we all work together as a team, and we just kind of feed off of each other, ideas and things, and so it just overall makes the job easier. And I feel like it makes it worthwhile.
Well, no, I think that's important to get to know, because there's love and you enjoy, and there's a team effort here. Everybody's puzzling in, and I think that's important for the public to know, because I mean, let's just face it. For a lot of us, especially where I come from, that's our uncles and our cousins and our brothers and our sisters and our aunts and our next door neighbors and people we went to school with that are being housed in there for all kind of different reasons, right? But to know that as soon as they get in there, that there's folks like you receiving them, right? You love what you do. I mean, I think that's important, because if you don't love what you do, Captain, if you're not selecting people that are saying what they're saying, right? And not just saying it, but living it, because I've had an opportunity to go and check that out. And I happen to know people that have received that on that end, and they say positive things, right? And even some of the guys that have been there a whole lot more than they would like, because I go around and ask. I'm still out in the community, and I ask on purpose. Yeah. And so there's good reports coming out. Not that they're in there. No one wants to be in there, as you said, Marco. However, the question has been asked, that I've asked out in the public, since you've been in there all those times, some of them got, a gazillion different mug shots, right? And they say, no, that's never been a problem. I've never felt unwelcomed in that sense. But to say that the booking process has not been one that they have had a complaint about, from me being a person out in the community. So I think that's important to be able to share and say, and I wanted to get y'all side of it, because I've talked to the folks in the public, in the community, and I mean, I'm from it, and nothing bad has come out of that, right? So that has to say just kudos to all y'all and what y'all do. We appreciate y'all whenever our relatives, sometimes they're knuckleheads or people we care about, end up in there. It's good to know that y'all's faces will be around there at some point. And so we're grateful for that here in our city and our community. So
Well, and remember, Waco's not that big of a town.
Yeah.
So we see friends that come in. We see
your own friends.
Yeah, you see your own friends, you see your own neighbors, you see family, you see all sorts of people that come through there. It's not that big a town, so it's going to happen to each and every person that works there.
So Mark, we're going to come back to that after. Marco, I want to ask y'all that question, but Marco, could you please continue with your question?
Yeah, so we were just talking about the officers that work up at booking, and I just kind of wanted to ask the question for these guys who are so much more involved with booking. Do you think that the type of officer that we have working up there is automatically instilled with that personality to kind of break through to these guys coming in? Or do you think that that's a process? Like, does it take a little bit of training to get that person there? You know, I just kind of want to get your take on what that looks like to you guys whenever y'all are trying to manage that, your personnel who are up at booking.
I feel like personally, majority of the people that do come to booking, I feel like majority, they do know how to speak to inmates. And there may be a couple here and there that will have to say, you know, try and talk this way or say this, don't say that. But 9 times out of 10, those officers, they know how to speak to the inmates.
I agree. You'll have the officers who it's natural, very natural for them. And you'll have some who, like Jackie said, you may have to pull aside and, hey, do this. But, you know, that's something that you try those officers up there. And some officers are like, I don't want anything to do with booking. Like, put me in a wing. I do not want to rove another day in my life. But you'll find that there are teams. I know whenever I was a housing sergeant, you had your group of people who just roving was their thing. They loved it. And yeah, so I think you find those people who it's what they love to do, which makes it easier for everybody.
So just speaking from my own experience, coming from before I ever worked for the county, I had a business where there was a big part of it was customer service. And you have to learn where you have to also be the person that enforces rules too. So you have to move. I had to move from the mindset of customer service to being able to talk to people but set hard lines, because you can't cross lines. You have to maintain a boundary to be able to do this job. So
How so?
Yeah. How so?
Yeah.
So when, you know, sometimes people ask you to do favors for them. Can't do that. Can't do favors. There's rules. There's things you have to abide by. If they say, hey, can you give me an extra one of these? Can't do it. Oh, come on, I'll do this for you, blah, blah. Can't do it. Say, you know, I'm not getting fired for somebody else. So you have to maintain that boundary and that line where my previous career was you kind of bend over backwards to try to take care of people. You do that in a sense in the same way because you're taking care of them, all of their, you know, needs on a daily basis.
Right.
But you're not, you have to maintain that boundary.
That's a good segue into the neighbors and the cousins and aunts, uncles, relatives, friends. How does that work? Does that happen often? Like when you see people like, come on, man, we went to school together. Or, I'm your neighbor. Or, come on, I used to be with your uncle, whatever it is, right? How so? What are some stories y'all have about some of those times?
So I worked booking many years ago, so I don't have any recent stories, and I'm going to try and remember, but I'll tell you a story that we used to have a supervisor there. I'm not going to name him. He's since retired. I'm going to give a shout out to the Wookiee, and that's all I'm going to say. But he had his brother come in one time, who was being a little bit rowdy, probably drunk, you know, whatever. And it was late at night, and he was a supervisor, and he saw his brother come in, and he ended up having to put him in a restraint chair, and it was his own brother just for his safety. And is it tough? Yeah, it's probably tough. I don't know how they grew up. You know, they probably hated each other's guts, or they loved each other. I don't know. But
Yeah.
The bottom line is we have a job to do, and we have to serve the citizens of McLennan County professionally.
Right.
So if we see somebody that we recognize, somebody that we love, somebody that's just, you know, we might be in a relationship with or whatever, you have to treat that person just like everybody else, and you have to be professional, and you can't break the rules just for that person.
Right.
But there's also understanding amongst your teammates, right? So if somebody comes in and, you know, you just can't, you know, I can't step into that professional role with that person who's coming in, you have a team that's going to back you up and say, no problem, I got you. I get it. This is somebody you love, somebody you know. You know, they also don't want to put you in that,
Sure.
You know, in the crosshairs, I guess, so to speak, with that person or that loved one that's coming in, or the person that you recognize, your neighbor. So they'll step up and they'll take charge, and they'll take over, and they'll start doing the interview questions or whatever it is. And that's what, you know, that team aspect is all about.
That's good. So there's healthy options for that, should that come up.
Sure.
Anybody else with any other stories about those kind of things? Oh, Captain, I think got
No, it's
some.
not so much that I had stories about it. Listen, I don't know that everybody wants us to out that they had people that they know, or that the people that they know get outed. But no, it is a important thing to understand that there are boundaries that have to be kept. And so, you know, if somebody has a brother or somebody and they're housed and they stay in the jail, we make sure that that person is not working in the same area as their family member, because we don't want to put them in a compromising situation.
Right.
Or make it look like there's any impropriety going on between them. So those things are taken into consideration. Like I said, it happens. It happens on the regular. But there's things we have to do to protect the officer and also to, you know, protect the inmate.
I think that's good. So if you're out there listening to this and you got a son or a daughter or a dad, then just know that everybody gets treated the same, and they try to treat everybody the same professionally. They're trying to take care of you, get you processed, get you in a room, and, you know, all the different processes, the pieces to that. And there's not any time for favors, or ethically speaking, they're not able to do that. It's not the right thing to do. So y'all don't be getting mad at nobody up in there, man. So just first of all, I'd say stay out of there. Don't go in there. Sure. And if you do, just allow the process to happen. Don't take none personal, because it's not. So, Marco, any other thoughts that you had that you think is pivotal while we have these ladies here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we talked about the first interactions we've got with somebody when they come in, how that's crucial. That's very vital to how the rest of your interaction with that person is going to be. And, you know, we treat everybody as a human being, because that's who's coming into jail. People mess up. We're no judge. We're no jury. We've got to treat these people just like we would treat anybody else. They're human beings. And when they come in and they have that first interaction with them, that's all we want. We just want a smooth jail experience for these people, because it's unfortunate that they're coming in and some people break the law and they have to come to jail. But, you know, that doesn't mean that the experience in jail, we should be the ones making that so much worse. We already know that it's bad for people when they come into jail, and they're already in a heightened state. But when they come in, and Eileen was talking about that earlier, they go out and they do the pat searches, and they start talking with the officers, the arresting agencies, and they bring them in. And after the pat search, when they bring them in, that process on the inside, that starts a whole other snowball. There's so much more that goes on when they come into the facility. So when they come in, it's almost like it's the first realization that their rights have been kind of taken away. You know, I don't have the freedom like I had before.
Right.
So you've got to be real careful with that interaction once they come inside those doors. But then on that side, once they come in, there's a whole other set of things that happen. Like they've got all these boxes they've got to check off from whenever they come inside.
So can y'all talk about some of those boxes? Because I know walking through there, Marco, when we did a tour, oh my goodness, you got people using the phones. You got people that are inside the holding tanks, or whatever you call them, right? Then you have where they get their shoes and all their stuff, and what do you call that part where they got to turn in their
property?
Yes, and then put on the jumpsuits and all that, and then you have you got a court
Oh yeah, we got court. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember. So can y'all talk about all those intricate pieces? And then you got all the different agencies that's been there typing on their deal and trying to update stuff, and the new ones
Yeah.
coming in. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about all that.
Yeah. I'll leave that up to them.
We'll give that to those experts. Yes.
Yeah. Those guys. Oh, the mic. Yeah. The mic.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I don't know if it'll reach, but
Oh, I got it right here.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Can
fine.
you still hear us? So whenever they come into the Sally Port, they're pat searched. We bring them into the facility, and from there you get put on we call it quick book pending, but it's a waiting list to
Okay.
be booked.
Okay.
So you'll go through medical intake. You'll get changed into a jumper. Your property will go over your property with you, and then you're put in a holding cell once medically cleared, waiting that waiting list.
Okay, wait. So that medical part
Yes,
I found that is so important.
very.
Can you talk about the importance of that and how sometimes there's kickback and how important that is?
So we have to clear somebody medically. Every person that comes in the facility has to be cleared by our medical staff. And there's a percentage of people who are turned away and have to go get hospital clearance, which will leave with the arresting officer and come back. That's only like 2% of them are monthly people booked, but which I keep all those stats, so I know that offhand. It's one of the most important steps of the intake process, and I commend our medical staff because they do a fantastic job. But we have to say that, or the medical staff has to say that they're okay to be in jail.
Okay.
And whether that means that they go on an observation, which is a very close check on them, but they're the ones saying that they're okay to be in jail. It is the most important checkbox.
Yeah.
So
of
that
our
has to
process.
happen before they move forward to anything else.
It has to happen before the arresting agency leaves the building,
Oh,
and within 30 minutes of being in the facility.
okay.
Yeah, they ask pretty important questions in that medical intake screening. So it's also a mental health, mental disability screening as well. And I can tell you years ago, and I'm not going to quote the year because I've got an idea of what year it was, but I can't remember it. But there was a certain amount of questions we were asking these people. Well, at that same time, the suicide rate in jails was pretty high.
Okay.
And the jail commission sat down and they started looking at things, and it's like, why are we having so many suicides inside the jail? Well, we determined that to combat that, we weren't asking the right questions, and we weren't asking enough questions. So we kind of put that on that medical intake screening whenever they first come in, and now we've got this laundry list of questions that we ask people when they come in, because we don't want anybody to die. We don't want anybody to hurt themselves, and if they're going through a crisis or going through something, that's our first line right there. Whenever we're dealing with somebody coming in, we try to get all these questions answered. So again, that nurse has to build that relationship with that person coming in, and they ask this laundry list of questions. And on top of that, we also get a response back based off of certain identifiers, which is called a CCQ, a continuation of care query. And that's going to give us some information on you if you receive mental health services anywhere in the United States, in Texas.
So do you mean that also we talked about how relational this is, right? That there even has to be a relational component there just as strong?
Yeah, because we want right answers. We want you to answer everything truly and accurately.
And if that relationship is being approached right, then you get, more often than not, I know there's an exception to all that, but cooperation where people will genuinely just tell you what's going on. They're being treated right, they're being talked to right, and no one's trying to light a fuse. They're trying to defuse and de-escalate.
Yeah, does it
because
happen?
we all need to process everything.
Do we have officers sometimes who kind of get sideways, or nursing staff that gets? Yeah, we're all humans. It happens every once in a while. But if you want your job to go smoothly and you want this person to have a fighting chance in jail, then you're gonna have and build that relationship with them where nobody wants to answer somebody who's being a jerk to them. Nobody
Right.
wants to have that kind of experience, that type of interaction. So for us, we want things to go smoothly. So we're going to try and build that relationship, build that rapport. But yeah, and then so the questions, we asked so many more questions, and we started realizing that we're asking the right questions, and now we know that we're probably going to have to keep an eye on this person a little bit longer and a little bit closer. So we'll put them on what's called an observation based off of those questions sometimes.
So, sergeants in the back, what if I come into the medical side and I'm there and I'm asking, and I'm trying to get over, I'm like, hey, I take hydrocordones or some I don't know, what are some other ones out there? I don't know, some kind of muscle, something, right? And you're the nurse, Captain. How does that work, y'all? How does that work? And I'm trying to get some pills, like I got back problems, so I need morphine. I don't know.
Well, I'm not a medical professional, but I know a little bit about this. So we have to get their medical records. So we will reach out to their doctor or to the hospital or wherever they've been to get medical records to verify what they're telling us that they're taking.
Okay.
So if, we'll say, if they give you a laundry list of drugs that they want, well, we're not going to just give those to them. We're going to have to verify that. And then we're going to have to, then we start dispensing medications.
So you have a way to make sure it's legit or not.
Oh, yes.
So they can't just pull one over on you.
Checks and balances.
Exactly right.
Okay. All right. I don't think a lot of people realize all that, just from the public that never make it in there. But I'm sure they're curious, so I'm kind of asking questions that I think they would want to ask. But okay, well, that's good stuff. Thank y'all for sharing that. What else we got, Marco?
I was going to let LT back here finish up with the medical process, because then there's.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
She went into the property after that.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
So we inventory every bit of their property, and they sign a slip saying that everything that we told them is what they brought into the facility, which sometimes gets hairy at the end because half of them don't remember what they brought in, and they're like, oh, I had this and I had that, which they didn't bring in. Or I thought I had shoes, and I can't tell you how many people have come into jail without shoes.
They might have been a little drunk or a little something when they got there, so
Yeah.
they don't remember everything that
Yeah.
happened on the front end.
These are my pants.
Are my pants. Yes. So there's some things that happen on the front end that you know.
Yeah, but we obtained that signature just for our liability purposes.
Okay.
They're changed out, and then from there, they either speak to the arresting officer if the arresting officer needs to speak to them, and if not, they're put into a holding cell. Once that happens, the arresting officer turns in their paperwork, what we call a Form 6. It has all the information, the charge information, and then any warrants or affidavits or anything that would secure the reason why they're in jail. Our TLETS operator will run them, and I'll let Jackie kind of talk a little more. TLETS is her baby.
Okay.
So I'll let her kind of explain the system and things like that.
Okay, and before we go to Sergeant, that's
Yes.
right? Yes. To Sergeant, how does I have a question? Again, I'm thinking from the community side.
Sure.
What happens when a person, for whatever reason, because we see this on the news, on Facebook, on social media, we'll see it. I mean, it'll be on the news or something. Where someone, for some weird reason, doesn't have much to leave there at the what do you call it? What is that called? The properties. Do y'all have like something from Goodwill to help them for when they leave? How does
Yes.
that work?
Yes.
So say there's not much, clothes or anything they had to begin with, and somehow they're in there with you guys now. As a result, when they leave, what do y'all give them? How does that system work?
We have had people come in naked, so we had to clothe them before they left. So
Really?
yes, we do have. Most of the time, it's donated clothes from
Okay.
inmates who are going to TDC or something like that. They'll say, I'm just donating my stuff. And so then we launder it and we put it into kind of our collection in property, and we use it as we go. As somebody needs clothes, we provide clothes for them.
Wow, that's an interesting fact. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us. Fun fact. Go ahead.
So our TLET system, it is a telecommunication system that that's how the agencies communicate with one another.
Okay.
And it's a DPS, it's their system. They just let all the agencies in Texas, all the other agencies in Texas utilize it. But you can run someone's name on there, and it will show any warrants. If they are a concealed handgun carrier, if they are a gang member or a terrorist watch, you can run vehicles, you can enter stolen vehicles, abandoned vehicles, anything stolen or lost. If it has an identification number, can be entered into the system.
Wow.
That way, if a police officer pulls somebody over in a car that's stolen, they run that VIN number, that license plate number, and it will return as stolen through that system.
Is this where the sheriff's department calls in to get their intel from that system?
Well, no. So
No?
They call dispatch. Dispatch will give them a lot more information.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But TLETS does some of that same information, does some of the same background checks.
Go ahead.
So no, where the officers are getting the information from when they call in, it's from dispatch, and that's where they're getting the majority of their information from. The TLETS operator sits inside the jail and has access to a lot of that same information because we got to make sure that the information that's being relayed to us is true and accurate.
Gotcha.
The TLETS operator sits there, and that operator has to sit at that desk and take those phone calls whenever they come in, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There has to be an operator there.
Oh, I remember you showed me right there across from the phones.
Yeah. They have to man that desk.
Wow.
That's where
And it's not the same person. I'll just throw that out there. It's a rotating schedule.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
That's good to know.
Yeah, that'd be an awesome jailer. I'll tell you that much right now. That operator. Yeah.
Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
No, so that's where they run each person that comes in to make sure they don't have any additional warrants. And they also run their criminal histories on there. That's where that comes when they get to be classified. The releasing officer, when they classify each inmate, they go through their criminal history, and if they have certain charges, they're classified a certain way. So, and that's where the TLET system runs the CCQ that Marco was talking about earlier.
Okay.
And whenever an inmate leaves, we run that inmate's name again just to make sure there's any other warrants in any other agency, other county, other state.
Okay. Wow. That's a big deal.
Yes.
So they say it's your baby. Why do they say that?
So last March, I was promoted to the TAC, but it stands for Terminal Agency Coordinator.
Okay.
So the TAC, they make sure the TLET system it's regulated by the DPS, FBI, CGIS is they deal with like the technical part of stuff. So basically, they're making sure since that system has all that information,
right.
All the capabilities that it has, they have to make sure they have all these policies and regulations and stuff. And so the TAC just makes sure that agency is going through with these policies and the trainings and the things like that.
Wow.
So,
That's
what I did for a little over a year. As I was that person, and not just that one TLETS terminal that we have in the jail, but it's through the whole sheriff's office.
Oh, wow. Well, I'd like to say congratulations. You know, that's a big deal. That's awesome. That doesn't sound like a small
It's a
task
job.
at all.
It's
Yeah.
definitely, it's not for the weak, I promise. But I was 2 or 3 months into being the TAC, and I had my very first audit, and it was with the FBI.
Ooh.
So, and it was a little scary.
Ooh.
Yes.
Captain, is she able to talk about what that felt like, or
Yeah, she can give just general description on, how the whole thing went in the overview.
okay, could you do that?
Yes, so they come in and they make sure that all of our employees are trained in the right areas. They have the right amount of training. When we run criminal histories, it generates a log, and so they randomly pick 20 different criminal histories that we had ran throughout a year's worth, and they make sure like, oh, this criminal history was ran for the right purposes. It wasn't ran just,
This is the
someone
FBI.
just. Oh, yeah. Yes.
So this is like an audit,
Oh,
basically.
yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Serious business, yeah.
So yeah, it was my like I said, 3 months in, and I got hit with, hey, we're the FBI, we're coming to audit you.
Oh,
And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll figure it out type thing. But it wasn't bad at all. It went very smoothly. The lady that was with the FBI that came to the sheriff's office or to the jail, very nice, she was aware. I'd made sure she knew, like, hey, I'm new in this. But she was very nice, and we passed. We were compliant in the areas, so
that's a big deal. Congratulations on all of y'all
Thank
for achieving that. You just came in, and the FBI already done hit you with an audit, and oh my goodness. So can you take us through how concerned the were, not about anything wrong, but just the fact that that, like, what was that like at home getting ready for that, or when they gave you the news? How did you process that?
Well, when I got the phone call from the lady at the auditor at the FBI, my work phone, it said Federal Bureau, like it cut off Bureau, and I was like, why? I instantly knew. I was like, why is the FBI calling me?
Oh my goodness.
But she told me, hey, my name is such and such. I'm going to be auditing y'all. I'll send you a list through email of what I'm going to be looking over. And I was like, okay, all right. And I told her right then and there, hey, you're going to have to be patient with me. I've barely been doing this. And she understood. But leading up to that audit day, it was very nerve-wracking. Just because, not because I knew we were good. We were going to be okay. Like,
Sure.
Our agency was going to be good. It was just going through it.
Of course, I think anybody who gets called,
especially the FBI.
yeah, when the FBI's called, you
Yes.
don't care who you are.
But when she was there for maybe 3-4 hours, I believe, and went through everything. And when she told me that we were good, she went over different things, and she told me we were compliant. It was like a huge weight was lifted off of me, and I was like, okay, I can breathe now. Yeah. But no, it was good.
So, Captain, how many times has that happened where the feds just come in and?
They do that periodically, but it had been several years since the FBI had come and audited us. We get audited by DPS as well. Of course, we go through jail inspections with the jail commission. We go through jail inspections with the marshals, with ICE, and so we are used to inspections, but it doesn't make it any less nerve-wracking when they show up and they start asking questions. We know we're going to do well or we're going to pass, but like last year, we had our very first ICE inspection, and I will tell you, their inspections are harder than anybody else's.
Really?
Yes. Oh, they go through with a fine-tooth comb. They are harder than the jail commission, Texas Jail Commission.
Oh, wow.
And so our first one, they don't really give you a scoring, but I would say we did like a B on that one.
Okay.
We did another one this past, just a few months ago, this summer, and I said we got an A on that one. But we don't even hold that many just ICE inmates.
Right.
But I like doing their inspection because it makes us better. It makes us look at things that jail commission maybe doesn't make us look at. So it just kind of sharpens us and makes us better at what we do.
From
nerve-wracking, though.
No, I get it. I mean, from a leadership standpoint, that's a whole lot of accountability.
Yeah.
Right. Which means there's got to be a whole lot of integrity. Yeah. Right. I mean, because if you don't have it, I mean, you won't pass it if you know what I mean. So there's a lot of scrutiny going on there, and so I don't think people realize that. You know, I wanted to make sure to get that across because as I've been learning, I'm like, oh wow. When I was talking with Chris and with Marco, I'm glad y'all brought that up because I was like, man, it's intense what I go through, and I don't think the general public out there, because you know I'm part of that. We just didn't realize it. We just think, okay, yeah, you go to jail, it's a building, you go in there, get your fingerprint, there's computers and stuff, and then there's a cell, they got to feed you. I know the basic stuff, but I think most people, I'm gonna say that, don't understand all that goes on in there, and especially the scrutiny that you guys have to go through. You know, there's a lot of stuff. So, man, my hat goes off to all of y'all. I mean, to run a jail. Apparently learning all this, it's no small task. It's a big deal, and we're just starting on the front end of this, right? We ain't even talked about once they get to the back and processed, right?
That's a whole other episode.
It's a whole nother episode, which keep it locked because we're going to be talking about all those intricate pieces. But this is just the front part, the front end. So, man, continue.
Well, just so that is the tack in a nutshell. It was just making sure our agency is compliant. But that is why it's my baby, just because I learned a lot during the period of me being attacked. But I was responsible for that area. I was responsible for people knowing the training and things like that. And so that's why it's my baby. When I got promoted to Kayla's sergeant spot, it was a little bittersweet because I was like, oh, you know, I liked being the tag, and you know, I learned so much, and but we passed it on to someone that she's doing well and she's learning. So
It's good. That's good.
G, can I just say something real
Absolutely.
quick? If you've noticed, these positions, I mean, they're not really highly sought after positions because of the amount of work that have to go into them.
Yeah.
But if you've noticed, I want to give a shout out to our females at the sheriff's office, because if it weren't for these ladies,
Yeah,
and she
shout
just
out
told
to
you that
them.
the person that took her job was another female. So like I said, I'm going to give just a shout out to these
I'll
guys.
do that, man.
You know, a female staff, that is amazing to me. That's so awesome.
Absolutely. I don't have my other machine that I normally do all the. This is a different one, and I don't want something different to come out than what I think it's going. But yeah, shout out to all the ladies out there helping making sure that our folks in the jail are taken care of and processed. Wow, what a lot goes into that. What other pieces of that? Do we have any other pieces that we haven't? What about,
that's just the very beginning.
What about the court part of that? Tell us what happens, because I had personally no idea that no one really leaves to go to court anymore, that a lot of it happens right there where you guys are at. So can we talk about that?
She's got some numbers for you.
Yeah, so just in 2024, we have, just in the jail, run over 2,500 inmates and around 3,000 cases, whether that's via Zoom. Well, that's all Zoom in the jail. So if you think of, and we have one corporal, and she processes everyone's paperwork for that. So even if you're still in jail, you go to court and you're sentenced to time, she's having to touch every bit of that paperwork. Do you think of 3,000 since the beginning of January? 3,000 people have been to court, whether that's county court or felony court.
But they're in the jail?
In the jail.
Right there in booking area.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
We did a run through, so people are going to see these images.
Yes.
But can y'all talk about when this was being requested? How did this come about? Let's talk about that. Because before we had none of this going on.
So county court has been run at the jail forever.
Okay.
But that's the misdemeanor court.
Okay.
Felony court stopped going downtown when COVID hit. Because they used to have a little van that'd come pick the folks up that were going to court, and they'd be in their little shackles and all that good stuff and go into the courthouse. And they had some holding cells at the courthouse where they would hold them while they were waiting for their turn.
Right.
When COVID hit, all that shut down. So can't stop the court system. It did for a little bit, but then, it didn't take for very long before we had to, ramp that back up. And so they started requesting Zoom hearings, and so it's begun, and so it is still going. So, but Lieutenant Baron Kayla did a great job of setting us up with a courtroom, found us a little room, set us up a courtroom at the jail that kind of looks like a little courtroom with, the flags and the whole thing. And the judges have kind of taken to this, so
Okay.
it continues.
So it was a request from the judges.
Once COVID hit, and then there was some logistical issues about when they started doing some remodeling at the courthouse, where they did not have holding cells anymore. Because remember the old jail that was downtown?
That's right.
They started remodeling all that and making that part of the courthouse.
That's right.
Well, then they didn't have holding cells or the capacity for that, so more of it got pushed back toward the jail. So they were like, well, the jail's been doing it this long.
So y'all were responsible for going and making it look like
Yeah.
a court place. For some, they were requesting they wanted it more.
Yep.
So what does that look like for you guys?
We run 2 different courts, 2 different judges on Thursdays.
Okay.
Our courthouse bailiffs come out and run or stay in these rooms and are running inmates to and from the wings to go to court. So we had to open an additional room at the jail in order to accommodate. It was just, we knew it was going to stay, and so we had to do something that was more permanent in that room, I think, and make it look more professional. And we were lucky enough to have a spot available, which doesn't come very often at the jail. We push for space, especially office space. So me and Jackie turned, with the help of David Ives and some duct tape with a camera to the wall. I duct taped the camera to the wall, yes, which has since been fixed. It's not duct taped anymore. But
You had to improvise at the
we had to
moment.
improvise.
Yeah.
But it was different after COVID. It wasn't something that was our normal. Usually we lined whoever was going to court. They come in, they were chained up, and they left for the day, come back around lunch, and then they do it all over again after lunch. But now they stay there. We're lucky enough that our bailiffs come out and are able to help the jail staff make sure that that's running smoothly and efficiently for the judges.
So while during this time where this has developed more, is there any judges out there that you want to shout out that kind of you have to engage with the most during this season or time?
All of them.
Yeah, we love our judges because, and I'll let them speak to this, but in the different roles that I've had, we are talking to the courts and the judges all of the time. We are asking them for help in specific situations, in general situations. So there is really a synergy between the jail and the courts just to make things run. I mean, we are literally in a partnership. And so the relationships with us and them are incredibly important.
And that doesn't even touch, that's just our felony and misdemeanor courts. That doesn't start to include our arraignment. That is twice a day for
Yes.
Oh, that's
new
twice a day.
inmates who,
For
who come
setting
in
bonds.
to
Yes.
set their bonds in order for them to be able to leave.
So you've got that court system going on, then you've got the arraignments going on, plus you've got the running of the booking desk going on. So there's a lot of things
All
going on.
this is still
out
in y'all's
there.
woodhouse right here.
Yes, and then keep in mind, then there's also federal court running
Yes,
on,
yes, for
which
our
we do
transport.
pick up and transport people downtown for, but that's a part of our transport area that we cover. So yes, there's lots of people and moving parts with the courts every day, Monday through Friday.
Wow. So someone comes in on a Friday night, let's say, they wake up in the morning and they say, hey, I want to get, when am I going to go to court? When am I going to get arraigned? Whatever. What do you tell them?
So we run arraignment every day, no matter if it's Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day,
What?
New Year's Day. It's every day. We have
Weekends too?
Weekends too. We have associate judges that come in that do our weekends.
Wait, how new is that?
It's
Has
we
that
have
been
to.
forever done like that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know
we
that. I thought
have-
weekends at one time were not.
We have a time limit on how soon and a certain charge has to be arraigned. You're supposed to be arraigned 24 hours on a misdemeanor and 48 hours on a felony. So with that, we have to have somebody there every day to do arraignment. It's not something we can escape.
Wow.
On the weekends, it's not a Monday through Friday 8
Right.
to 5 type of thing there.
It's every day. Wow. I didn't realize that. I'm sure there's several out there that didn't either. Man, okay, so then that brings in, I don't mean to get off, but it's still on, but bail bondsmen. You have to work with them a lot, is that right? How does all that work?
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And our average, I'm a numbers person, so y'all just bear with me.
Yeah, we need
our
that.
average
Tell 'em.
monthly bonds are about 750 bonds a month.
750 a month.
Yes.
How many, if you had to guess, bail bondsmen do y'all have to deal with?
Oh goodness. We didn't bring the list. I didn't bring
Well,
the list. I didn't bring that.
And not all of them are active. I
Right.
mean, they don't all come in all the time. So we have
Oh.
kind of a core, I don't know, probably about 10 or 12 that come
Okay.
in repeatedly, but then
Okay.
the list may be 25, and then you just
Right.
don't ever see those. So
Got you. So there's, how many did you say? An active?
Yeah, I would say 10 to
10
12.
or 12,
10 or
that, are, that are
12.
regulars that come in.
Well known.
Yes.
They come in dealing with those 750.
Yes.
Yep.
They're busy people too. Yeah.
Busy.
And that they're 24 hours, 7 days as well? Okay.
Yep.
Well, geez. So you were saying, so law enforcement, right? So one of the things, I work with Chief Victorian Cheryl over there at the Waco PD.
Yeah.
Me and my
Chief
wife work with,
Victorian.
we work with her really well, and the ACs over there and commanders and all that. But I was at a training, me and my wife were there at the tower last week, and Cheryl, she gets flown all over the nation to speak. And so she did a class there with her top leadership, and she was talking about relational policing, right? She was saying that what's typically been titled as law enforcement, most do more than just enforce the law. And so for her, she says, she advocates to get away from just saying law enforcement, because she says we enforce the law, but that's just a piece of it. She says there's so many. So I bring all that up because it reminds me of what you guys do. Like there's so much that you have to do than just, she uses the word being peace officers or police officers, or I think in the sheriff's department, what do we call them? Is it different? Or is it
Jailers or correctional officers, yes.
jailers or correctional officers? I'm getting a lot of the same thing when you're talking about how relationships, Captain, you're saying is so important, even to the decision making on who's going to make,
Right.
leadership. And so then, Marco, you've talked several times about that, and even last time about how important that is. And so I just wanted to bring that up. And Captain, Marco, getting to know Chris, and Cody, how important do you think that is to their leadership from them, that there's relational, I don't know, there's some relational pieces to what you guys are saying. Not only you're saying, but you're modeling. How important do you think that is to the rest of the folks?
Yeah, you want me to take this one? So yeah, I think it's a very important idea from Cody and from Chris, that amongst the leadership within the sheriff's office, not just the jail, our civilian staff, out on patrol, all of our different divisions, you want a leadership that is able to listen to their people, that's able to build those relationships. You want them to want your people to succeed. And I think that's something that they've instilled in us and something that they've kind of made clear that you want your people to succeed in any opportunity we can give them. And you can't do that by being absent. You have to be present. And that's one of the things that they want. They want your leadership to be present. So they not only do they set the example, but they also sit down with us and they have conversations with us. Cody's been in the jail many, many times, and he's come in and he's talked to us and kind of given us some ideas and just the side conversations that they have with us. It's not just as a group. We sit down and we talk with each other and we talk about certain things, and we make a point of it to sit and talk with our officers and build those relationships up with them. And it's not always about business. Sometimes it can just be about, what did you do this weekend? How did your weekend go? What's going on with you? And I think it's very important to the people who are above us that we build those relationships with our people who are working underneath us, because we want them to succeed and we want them to take over our jobs at some point. And you want those people, and you want those people for your community. You want them to be able to run and take over this well-oiled machine that hopefully we're doing justice.
Well, and I think that's, for me, just listening, I brought that up because I think it's important from leadership. Everything rises and falls off leadership. I'm a big leadership person. I talk about this a lot. Accountability is a big deal, for me, personally, what I do, but I think in all leadership. And so this seems like it's something that is being promoted, right? This is something that's being advocated, aimed for. So there's not a bottlenecking of saying, no, just put somebody in that hot seat that can just be a warm body to get it done. But instead, you're being given the wings to fly in that direction, if that makes any sense. So empowered, encouraged to do that. That is a healthy model. I think, obviously, I haven't made it through all the other areas, but I can at least say this area is being modeled, which in any family, in any organization or agency that you're a part of, no one's going to hit a perfect 10, right? But there is hope when someone within inside is modeling these things, right? Because that's contagious. Because the opposite is contagious when it's unhealthy things that are being modeled. So I'm tooting y'all's horn. I'm just saying thank y'all so much because, Captain, you guys are all in leadership. I just said it. Everything rises and falls off leadership. You're sitting here, and I'm sitting here asking these questions. We're being transparent and honest. This is not rehearsed. I know in leadership that, unfortunately, when things don't go well, everybody gives you attention and everything's on your shoulders. But I want to say when things are going well, from a person in the public, I just want to say thank you, a leader in the community. I've been doing this for 20 plus years. I want to say thank all of y'all for willing to take the lead. And I know that each and every one of you, you're human. You got issues and your issues got issues. Welcome to being a human, right? Because we all have that. However, that's why I asked the question. You wake up every day and you go do your job, right? If you didn't do your job, you wouldn't be here, right? You guys are scrutinized on a massive level. And so what's celebrated is repeated. And so we celebrate you today. We are grateful on behalf of the community. We want to say thank you for all that you do. This is a big deal to us. Maybe for some, maybe not, but details and intricate pieces and systems, that's where I'm at. And I really appreciate y'all and what y'all do in the systems that y'all have to manage and make sure that they're being well oiled. And now I have a whole different respect for you and for the county, because the jail, because now when someone goes to jail that I know is going to hit me different. I'm like, oh, hey, I know at least so far, because we're going to continue this in the series, but I know that the booking part, the processing part, what are we calling it? The Sally what?
Sally Port.
I was going to say Sally Mae, but that's the wrong. That's academics, but academia world. But the Sally Port, that I know that those folks are going to be processed in a way that affirms, I like to say, the God-given dignity in the people. So shout out to McLennan County Sheriff's Department. Shout out to the McLennan County Jail. which has two pieces, right? There's do we still recognize one and the other? How do we recognize this now?
So there's two buildings. There's Highway 6 and there's Jack Harwell.
Right.
However, they're all one. They're all part of the McLennan County Jail.
Okay.
And so there is an administrator and a captain who's over both jails.
Okay.
And then my captain's part is over booking and then the administrative back office functions.
Okay.
So yeah, it is all one jail, one facility, but there's two different buildings because one was built later and then, we took over a private facility in 2019.
Right. Okay. Well, thank y'all for all that y'all do. We appreciate you. My co-host here, Marco, what do you got to say, man, on our way kind of landing the plane here?
Well, I just kind of want to say again, thanks for, opening your studio and giving us the time to put this information out there. Because, I think I said it last time, nobody really understands what we do. They just kind of see what's on TV and they don't get to see what we actually do, those relationships that we build up. They get to see the highlights on that TV show because that's what sells. That's what brings people in. But the time that these guys take to actually make sure that somebody's getting processed correctly, that they're going through something when they come in, and they're helping them get through that as well, because there's that that human side of things, and then everything else that they've got to do. I give props to these guys because that's a task, that's a job, and what they do is very important. And for you to give us that opportunity to allow these guys to come in here and allow me to come in here and share that with you and your viewers, just kind of, it makes everything relatable, and we like that. And we appreciate you giving us that platform.
Of course. Well, we're so humbled and grateful for the opportunity to be given the platform. And so we're just grateful, and we're here for you guys. We're here to say thank you and to celebrate who you are and what you do. As leaders, hey, file that somewhere under an encouragement file, and don't forget it, because you're going to need it. Because if anyone, all of you who are watching, if you're in leadership, you know how it goes. It gets kind of lonely, and it's kind of far and in between. Everybody will tell you all the complaints. Not too many people will tell you the congratulations, or use that same energy. So I'm using that same energy to say thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. God bless you. What is celebrated is repeated. We want more of this repeated. Amen. We talk to y'all later.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.